Coming up on District Wire News, a school shooting in France. A gunman kills 4 people, 3 of them children, outside a Jewish school in the southwestern French city of Toulouse.
And controversy in D.C. politics. Mayor Vincent Gray is making district employees sign an oath that asks them to adhere to new ethics manual. District Wire News starts right now. Good evening, I'm Brittany Hood.
And I'm Lydia Bayud. Robert Bales, the Army Staff Sergeant accused of killing 16 Afghans, is back in the United States. CNN's Susan Candiotti has an exclusive report from the people who know him.
Remembers his last conversation with Sergeant Robert Bales, who called him from Afghanistan.
A real caring, real understanding individual, even from a real young age.
Durham has known Bales all his life. They live next door to each other in Norwood, Ohio.
Bobby and my son were best friends.
An uncommonly kind friend, because Durham's son Wade, 2 years older than Bales, is severely disabled. Bobby made sure Wade was never left out, no matter what anyone thought.
And with Bobby around, there was never a question. All of Bobby's friends accepted Wade, because Bobby accepted him.
Like most, Durham was horrified to hear about an American soldier who allegedly gunned down 16 Afghan villagers door to door. How did you react when you heard the news?
They're saying Bobby did that, and I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. I can't believe it. The Bobby that I knew is not the Bobby that could have done that.
Durham suspects his friend may have snapped, and he's worried.
I don't think he can live with it. He'll never be the same. And that he's such a great person. That crushes me. I don't know.
What questions do you have?
I think everyone has the same question because everyone knew the same Bobby.
Questions with few answers.
I don't know what happened to my friend Bob Bales. I hope somebody figures it out.
And gets him help. Susan Candiotti, CNN, Norwood, Ohio.
A shooting at a Jewish school in Toulouse in southern France on Monday has resulted in 4 casualties. 3 of the victims were children, including one 3-year-old. A teacher, French President Nicolas Sarkozy, visited the school Monday as authorities put the city into lockdown. CNN's senior European reporter, Jim Bitterman, describes the scene.
About 10 minutes after 8 this morning local time, as students are gathering at a school called the Ozar HaTorah School in the Jewish area of Toulouse. In fact, a gunman came by on a motorbike and shot into a crowd of about 4 or 5 people.
Investigators believe the incident may be linked to 2 previous shootings of soldiers by a man on a motorcycle in the region. France has one of the largest Jewish populations in Europe. President Sarkozy is calling the incident a national tragedy.
At least 27 people were killed in Syria after 2 suicide bombers blew up cars packed with explosives. CNN's Rima Maktabi has more.
For the second day in a row, a car bombing rocks Syria. The target this time is Aleppo. State TV said that a car filled with 200 kilograms of explosives went off, killing some and injuring others. While the target seems to have been Aleppo's political security branch, that area is known to be dominantly inhabited with Christians and Armenians, both belonging to the Syrian religious and ethnic minorities. Syria's state TV and residents of Aleppo said that security forces were tipped off about the bomb and were moving residents when the explosion went off. This comes a day after twin suicide bombings killed 27 and injured more than 100 in the capital Damascus. No one claimed responsibility of these series of attacks. Residents in Damascus spoke about the horrific experience after these explosions. This is what they said.
We took our son and got on the street after the blast. We came back home and it was terrible. Everything was upside down, all the doors were open, and the windows were smashed.
A whole family died in this house, a woman and her 4 small children. Almost nothing was left of them. They were completely incinerated. Only fingers and toes were left.
The Syrian opposition rejects the government's claim that these explosions are carried out by terrorists. A Syrian rebel leader said that these are the regime's games and dirty tricks. While car bombs are spreading terror in Syria's major cities, the military crackdown continues. These YouTube videos posted by activists on social networks show more killings in different parts of Syria. CNN cannot verify the authenticity of these videos, but activists reported dozens killed on Sunday across the country, along with arbitrary arrests against political activists and dissidents. A humanitarian mission is on its way to Syria, according to joint UN Arab League Special Envoy Kofi Annan. However, there are many questions on the freedom and access that these humanitarian agencies will be given to help the people of Syria. Rima Maktabi, CNN, Beirut, Lebanon.
President Hugo Chavez returned to Venezuela after undergoing surgery in Cuba. He hugged many who had gathered to welcome him back. Chavez suffered cancer last year, but never specified what kind. He is now returning from having another tumor removed, but overall, the Venezuelan government has released little information about his health.
The Supreme Court will be ruling on the Obama administration's national health care plan later this month. The court is giving the issue more time to hear arguments, 6 hours over 3 days next week. That's more time than any other case in the last 44 years. The court will have to determine the constitutionality of a government requirement for millions of people to obtain health insurance. Analysts say the decision could have important political implications for the presidential elections in November.
After big wins in Puerto Rico on Sunday, Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney is trying to win the delegates in Illinois. Romney's campaign hopes the candidates will appeal to Illinois voters in time for the Tuesday primary. His main competitor, Rick Santorum, came in first in the recent Arkansas and Mississippi primaries. Analysts say Romney needs to do well in Illinois if he plans to get back in firmer footing after falling to third place behind Newt Gingrich in those southern states.
Nearly 90 District of Columbia employees are facing disciplinary action because they won't sign an ethics manual issued by the mayor, the same mayor who is under investigation himself for ethics concerns. Maria Hallis is here live in the studio with more. Maria?
Lydia, here it is, the 150-page ethics manual that employees who work for the D.C. government are being required to sign. And in it are provisions prohibiting co-workers from giving a birthday present to each other or selling Girl Scout cookies. And if employees don't pledge to follow the manual, they will just have to face disciplinary trouble. The D.C. government published this new ethics manual late last year, which is 150 single-space pages. The mayor is now requiring nearly every district employee read it and sign a pledge agreeing to its terms. Under the new guidelines, a D.C. employee can't recommend a friend for a job or accept any gift from any resident that is worth more than $10.
150 pages is a bit excessive. I mean, you can put a lot of stuff in there, and then they're asking people to sign their name to that. I think it's shady to me.
85 employees have refused to sign and instead checked the disagree box on the form. Those employees could be facing serious consequences.
An ethics manual is a good thing to sign when it is specific to the person and not a general booklet for general occasions.
Now, of some relief to employees, a source in the mayor's office says that employees who refuse to sign won't likely be fired. But there will be some work-related consequences. Now, some of the pages seem difficult to understand, so if employees don't sign or sign and can't follow the provisions, they could be in serious trouble. Lydia, back to you.
DC's gay and transgendered communities continue to deal with hate crimes directed against them. A series of recent attacks is bringing together members of DC's gay community to find a solution. Daniela Vlacic has more.
Metropolitan Police are calling the shooting of a gay man in an IHOP restaurant last Sunday an anti-gay hate crime. Since the shooting in Columbia Heights on March 11th, several other hate crimes were reported in the days following, including an attack that left a man with a broken jaw. But police say the incidences are not related. In response to the recent events, the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community have come together and started a Facebook page called March for Victims of the GLBT Violence. This is the IHOP where a man was shot last week. It is also the starting point of a silent march that has been organized in support of victims of violence in the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. According to the event's Facebook page, the march will start here tomorrow evening and end at the site of the most recent act of violence, still to be determined. Over 300 people have confirmed their attendance on the Facebook page and are eager to make a statement.
A march is good, it brings awareness, but I also do think there's more effective ways to combat. I think you can get involved with LGBT organizations in DC, actually, like the National Gay Lesbian Task Force, NCTE, donate towards those organizations so that they can fight for legislation to protect people.
Over 60% of hate crimes are related to sexual orientation in Washington, D.C. On the national scale, hate crimes related to sexual orientation make up 20% of the 6,500 hate crimes reported in 2010. The silent march will begin tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the IHOP on 14th and Irving Street Northwest. Reporting for District Wire News, Daniela Vlacic, Washington.
The New Hampshire House is voting this week on repealing the state's gay marriage law. Some legislators have proposed replacing it with the civil unions law it had in 2009. If repealed, the civil union law would take effect in March 2013. Voters would still be able to vote to keep or repeal the gay marriage law in November.
Former Rutgers student Darun Ravi has been convicted of invasion of privacy and bias intimidation for using a webcam to spy on his gay roommate before his roommate jumped off the George Washington Bridge and killed himself. CNN's Shelby Lynn has the story.
On invasion of privacy, we find the defendant guilty or not guilty as to TC.
Guilty. 20-year-old Darun Ravi learned his fate Friday in a trial that garnered attention across the nation. The 15-count indictment included charges of invasion of privacy, tampering with physical evidence, and bias intimidation. Jurors found Ravi guilty on some charges, but not all of them. In September 2010, Ravi's roommate, Tyler Clementi, killed himself after learning Ravi secretly taped a sexual encounter between Clementi and another man. The 18-year-old freshman jumped off the George Washington Bridge. Clementi's father spoke after Friday's verdict.
The trial was painful for us, as it would be for any parent who must sit and listen to people talk about bad and inappropriate things that were done to their child.
Prosecutors say Ravi tried to embarrass Clemente because he was gay.
His intent was targeted, and it was targeted at Tyler. And it was targeted at Tyler because of Tyler's sexual orientation.
Ravi's attorneys argued their client was an immature student who made a mistake.
He hasn't lived long enough to have any experience with homosexuality or gays. He doesn't know anything about it.
Ravi's sentencing is set for May. The maximum penalty is up to 10 years behind bars and deportation to his native India. I'm Shelby Lynn reporting.
Coming up next, as cherry blossoms bloom, a new bike share station is helping attract locals and tourists alike. We'll tell you where after the break.
And the national high school graduation rate has gone up. We'll have this and more coming up next.